But don't forget to find us on SuperTalk TV, where you can watch us on your computer or your mobile device. You'll see we're not in the studio today. We are coming to you live from the Joseph Green Hall on the campus of Southern Miss. We're bringing awareness to a tough topic, but a good thing, CAST, Child Advocacy Studies Training, which is also not only at our universities, but also at our community colleges, which we're learning. And so Keith Stovall is joining us today. He's the CAST faculty for Copiah-Lincoln Community College, and I hear you're up to some really good things when it comes to the virtual learning. So welcome, Keith.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
It's good to have you here. It's so good. And I keep saying tough topic. Really, we haven't delved into some of the tough stuff. I think the tough part is just the fact that child abuse is alive and well in Mississippi, and anything we can do to defeat it or sort of bring light to it, I think is definitely a good thing. And that's exactly what these programs do. It helps students be better prepared to do that when they go out to the workforce. So how did you guys at Copiah-Lincoln Community College get connected with the CAST training?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I've been on staff at Co-Lin for almost 20 years, and I came really after 4 years of being a forensic interviewer and therapist for the Southwest Mississippi Children's Advocacy Center. So I finished my graduate degree here at USM, counseling psychology, and I
To the top.
to the top, and wanted to be a therapist, and had no intention of working with kids, but I got a job in Pike County. I didn't know really what advocacy was about. I had done some research on the dynamics of abuse, and it was a discipline and an area of interest academically, but I had no idea what I was in for. And I tell my students all the time that as a man, we're socialized to be providers and to do a good job, but in that field, when you do a good job and you make a child feel at home and they can tell you their story of abuse, you hear things that you never would have dreamed
Or prepared to hear.
you're not prepared to hear them. And I got a little burnt out in about 4 years of doing that work. It does happen, and I got to a point where I was just ready for a fun job. And,
So you went to teaching college students.
so yeah, and truthfully, I didn't know if I'd ever be back in a world where I was hearing trauma. And so I got to the classroom, and I just fell in love with the classroom and engaging. And about 12 years after teaching classes in psychology and sociology, I was blessed to get the position of division chair, and I was informed by the outgoing division chair, we got this great thing, child advocacy studies, and you should probably look into it. And I just thought, here we go again. And in a great way, it was just as if I was meant to be back and to fight.
But in a different way.
In a different way.
And sort of helping to get more soldiers.
Exactly. And so I think you have to approach this with a lot of a balance. And we have different avenues of protecting children. I think education, raising up frontline employees is a frontline social workers, clinicians, therapists, trauma-informed practitioners, healthcare, nursing students. I had to get my bearings in the community college world. We put a lot of students into nursing. Mm-hmm. And they are going to recognize child abuse after taking a CAST course, being trauma-informed and understanding how children process trauma.
How important is it, Keith, since you had a professional experience, maybe seeing the aftermath of long-term abuse or just neglected to be brought to light abuse, if someone can catch it sooner, mm-hmm. right? Like if mm-hmm. someone can catch it, would have gotten those kids a couple years earlier or right at the forefront or lessened the opportunity, what kind of true impact mm-hmm. does that make that we'll never be able to truly measure mm-hmm. but have the potential to do?
Prevention is the key. It's the adage is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and the way that is fleshed out in child protection is by recognizing and reporting quickly.
And I think, too, like we talk about the CAST and then we talk about these harder things, and I don't want students listening or future students to think that this means that you're going to be their therapist mm-hmm, or that you're going to mm-hmm, get into the weeds with their trauma. Mm-hmm. So what exactly does CAST teach the nurse or teach the healthcare professional, and what is it not? Like, where's that boundary?
Well, we need solid mandatory reporting training. A mandatory reporter is anyone who is by law required to report suspicion of abuse in good faith. And so anytime you suspect, you don't have to know what's going on. You have to have just a suspicion. We've got to inform people what abuse looks like. How do children process trauma? So it's entirely relevant for a future nurse or a teacher. I'm also a pastor, so we deal a lot with kids, when I'm not working at the college. And so you have children that we've interacted with in the community. So you just definitely, you're going to see children at risk.
Now, I hear, Keith, that you guys at Co-Lin are kind of on the forefront with the virtual learning. I know students like to learn a lot of different ways now, and having those different options is really helpful for folks to buy into things like CAS. Not everybody wants to come to campus, or especially if they're all virtual, and then they're not going to take this one certificate if that's what's going to make them have to come to campus, unfortunately. So how have you guys been utilizing the virtual platform?
So I was glad to hear Addison talk about her experience of being in Katy. That's sponsored. It's a Child Advocacy Training Institute. It's housed at the Children's Advocacy Centers of Mississippi. And I had a similar experience of visiting with Wendy Copeland and seeing it. And like Tina, I'm also teaching this course online. And for community colleges, we have some unique challenges teaching a lot. If we do virtual learning, if we have, like Holmes Community College, Copiah-Lincoln Community College has 3 satellite campuses. And so across our 3 campuses, we want to make sure that children have, that our students have the opportunity to get this great content. It would be hard enough for me to take one class all the way to Jackson, to take them through Katy, to see a simulated case of abuse. And so we just got to thinking, and it really was COVID. COVID showed us that
you can do a lot online.
You can do a lot online. It was really impossible for all community college teachers to do their normal thing. And so we got creative. I was so thankful for the Children's Advocacy Centers offered a grant, and Carla and Wendy could tell you more about that. But I was blessed to write for and receive a grant to create what we call a virtual care house, and that stands for Child Advocacy Response and Education. And so what we've done is we basically virtually in our course, students, we load them we load these little video snippets so a student can navigate through a mock house, and we have a simulated case of abuse. So they get the child's name, they get the report, they get we were able
Same
to,
if you were there in person, right?
Exactly. We hired an actress who recorded great videos, and so what this enabled us to do was to bridge the gap in services. And kind of the scenario I paint in my mind, the picture that I like to sort of paint is if I'm a single mom and I'm working at a factory job, and I want to be a social worker and I want to do more to affect change, but I've got to take these online classes, and I'm working from 8 in the morning till 3, 5 in the afternoon. I come home and take these classes. There's no way I'm driving up to Jackson to go through Katy.
Yeah, it'd be a barrier. Yeah.
So what we've done is we've enabled to give them a simulated experience, a kind of immersive experience. Now, what you have to do, though, is you have to be sensitive that these could trigger people can get emotionally activated from hearing and going through these cases, and we've had that happen. So you have to build into it responsiveness. So part of our SACS accreditation this year, we partnered with Timely Care, and it's Co-Lin Pause. And one thing that we're going to do is to give all of our students online or ground access to counseling services. So
That's wonderful.
And so now we load that into our virtual world. If they have a traumatic response or if they've gone through abuse, then they can get immediate help. support.
Which I think is definitely a good thing. Keith, if people want more information on what they're doing at what you guys are doing at Co-Lin, how do they do that?
Keith.Stovall at Co-Lin.edu. COLIN.
Good deal. All right, thank you
so
for your
much.
time. You guys stick with us. We got more for you coming up next.